Russian Federation passport, or загранпаспорт, how we call it in Russian. That's literally the most important thing that I own recently, because without this little book I will not be able to travel abroad and I'll have to stay in Russia. My загранпаспорт is old, it's damaged, that doesn't smell very good, and that's 80% full of visas and stamps. And it's going to be a useless piece of paper just after 1 month. Like, it's going to be expired by March 2024, but technically most countries, they will not let you in if your passport is valid for less than 6 months. And without my загранпаспорт, the only possible option for me will be returning to Russia, which is not my most desirable option. I guess you understand why it is so for me. That's why I was working for my passport renewal since February of this year, and finally, just a few days ago, I received this new, undamaged, good-smelling virgin passport that is going to last me for the next 10 years. I'm pretty sure you did not wake up this morning thinking about Russian passports, but that's my story today, and that's an interesting story. I'm going to explain how Russian passports work and why I have 3 passports at the same time, and also how I was able to make my new travel passport without coming back to Russia. First of all, what kind of passports do we have in Russia? This one is internal passport, the ones that I use while staying inside Russia. And this one is my travel passport, загранпаспорт, the ones that I use while being abroad. Every Russian citizen gets this internal passport when he or she reaches 14 years old. Then at 20 years old you have to update it, and update it for the second time when you reach 45 years old. If I do any legal actions in Russia, that's the thing that I cannot go without. Also, it has a lot of information about like who I am, where I live, did I serve in army, do I have kids, do I have a wife, and stuff like that. This passport is different. This one you can apply at any age. So when I was 9 years old and my father was taking me abroad for the first time, he applied for my first загранпаспорт. Then when I turned 19 years old, I was planning my first independent trip abroad, and I applied for this загранпаспорт. It's gonna be expired soon, so that's the reason why I was applying for this one. Basically, the main reason I'm recording this video. So now the question, why do I have like 3 passports? Simple, internal passport, something that I have to have and use inside Russia. And I have 2 загранпаспорts, and they kind of work independently. By the time when I will be leaving Vietnam and going to the next country, I can use any of them. I guess it's time to share the process of working on my passport renewal, because, oh gosh, it was quite long process, and first time I thought about it in January of this year. The demand for new travel passports was super high after the beginning of war between Russia and Ukraine. That time, literally so many people rushed to make new passports from within Russia. And then after September of the last year, after mobilization was announced, many people, they escaped Russia, and the demand for new travel passports abroad also rose dramatically, which got me into the situation when I was sitting in Thailand by the end of 2022, by the beginning of 2023, and thinking about how do I make a new travel passport, because this piece of paper is going to be expired a year later. I did not feel any pressure because I thought that I'm having enough time for my passport renewal, and I did some research just to find out that it takes a long time to actually do a new travel passport abroad, because the demand is high and the waiting times, the waiting lines are super long. I mean waiting time not for having my passport done, but waiting time for getting into Russian embassy and starting the application process. Then I made a few inquiries to Russian embassies in South Korea, in Thailand, in Vietnam, in Indonesia, a few more countries, and the basic trend was that by January 2023, the average waiting time was anything around 3 to 5 months. I was like, okay, that is a long time, but I have enough time for waiting this without worrying much. So I applied for my passport renewal in Vietnam. No specific paperwork at this time. I just gave a phone call to get into the line, into the waiting line for beginning my passport renewal. After that phone call, during waiting time, I did quite a while traveling, lived in Vietnam. I traveled to Indonesia, Bali, to Singapore, to South Korea, to China, Hong Kong, Macau, and then finally came back to Vietnam to start my application process. Today is a very important day. I'm going to visit Russian consulate, first time visiting Russian authorities for very long time. And I'm going to apply for my international passport renewal. Hope everything will go fine. I don't know, I guess
The future Niki will tell you how exactly this experience went through. Wish me luck. So stage 1 is done. That wasn't bad at all. It took me exactly 1 hour since the moment when I arrived to Russian consulate to the moment when I walked out after applying for my passport renewal. I got a paper saying that they took all my documents, and now I just have to wait up to 3 months to receive a new Russian travel passport.
And that was kind of straightforward. I just needed to print out 1 copy of like special form to fill it in with necessary information about who I am, where I'm coming from, and also about what I did in the last 10 years. Literally, I had to fill all information about what I did as a job or what I did as my study during the last 10 years. And that was quite hilarious because officially for Russia, I didn't do any jobs. I didn't do any study within the last 10 years. Literally 10 years ago, I dropped out of my university. So during the last 10 years, I lived in China, I worked in China, I did this YouTube thing and traveled the world. But I had nothing to fill in that form, literally nothing, no legal information. I just made 3 entries to that form about what I did in the last 10 years. And I wrote, I didn't do anything, like nothing at all. The person who was working on my document said, Nikita, that's my full name, not Niki, Nikita, there's like 3 entries of you doing nothing in China, of you doing nothing in Thailand, and then you doing nothing in Russia. What about we just combine that into 1 entry of you doing nothing without stating where exactly you were staying that time? And I was like, yeah, sure, you have more experience of filling these forms, just do whatever you think is appropriate. So he corrected my form, took the documents and said, okay, here is your number. You can track the readiness of your passport online. Once it's ready, you will see it online, and also we'll send you an email and give you a phone call, so you'll have to come back and take your new passport. So I can say that the experience of visiting Russian embassy was quite pleasant. It was very fast. I had to pay a fee for applying for my passport. It was almost 2 million Vietnamese dong, which is a bit less than 100 American dollars. And after walking out of the embassy, the only thing that I needed to do is to wait. So I waited for 2 more months. I visited Cambodia, I visited Thailand briefly, I visited Philippines for the first time, and I came back to Vietnam after Philippines just to receive the news that my passport is ready and I have to just go and pick it up.
Just stepped out of Russian soil. Yeah, that is kind of legally Russian soil, not territory of Vietnam, but territory of Russia, on the embassy land. And I'm holding 2 Russian passports right now.
The only funny thing that happened while receiving the passport was me making a signature inside my passport. In my first passport, my signature was just my last name written in Russian, so I wanted to do something different, like write it in English and write it with Niki, the way I sign my postcards, the way I sign the letters. And I was like, okay, that's the signature. So I wrote my signature, and right after I signed my passport, I had a very weird look from the official who was handling me the passport. He was like, excuse me, why your signature is different now from the signature that you signed at the moment of applying for passport, because that signature also goes inside the passport. And I was like, oh damn, I hope that doesn't actually mean anything. And I said that I just like it this way, and he said like, that's weird, I haven't seen people signing this way before, but okay, you can keep it. So I took my passport and walked away from Russian ground once again.
So I think it's pretty safe to say that next 10 years I'm alright. But the thing is that right now I'm stuck in Saigon for 1 day. I arrived here from Dalat to visit the Russian embassy, and I was not 100% sure that everything will go like smoothly, so I did not get a ticket back to Dalat. That was a miscalculation, because so many people from Saigon go to Dalat for a weekend. Now all tickets sold out except super expensive ones for like $150 a ticket, while a normal ticket costs like 30-40 bucks. I'm stuck here for 1 day, and I guess I'll take this time to explore a little bit more of Ho Chi Minh City. There's one place I haven't been yet, it's War Remnants Museum, just 8 minutes down this road, so I'm heading there and get a bit of Vietnamese culture to this day and to this video. Did I just say bringing more culture to my day into this video before coming here? This place is not about culture. This is a reminder for terrible events that took place here last century, and I guess a reminder that humanity always had big wars in history, and most likely we just never gonna stop having that. That's really weird feeling to stay at this museum. Yeah, I'm gonna explore it and see you in Dalat.
That museum was emotionally a heavy place. I didn't explore it all. I spent most of my time there reading stories about American people who were against the war in Vietnam, which made me think a lot about like Russia-Ukrainian war. Maybe someday in the future, there will be a war remnant museum in Kyiv, and Russian people will be going there to get some knowledge about the atrocities that my country is doing to Ukraine these very days. At least that's what I saw in Saigon. Lots of American visitors getting into that museum and getting educated about the things that American government did to Vietnam in last century. Anyway, coming back to the main theme of this video, I have a few more things to share about my passport, and also I have a few announcements about my next destinations. This year, many people asked me something like, Niki, you left Russia in September. Do you ever consider like to change your citizenship to gain a new passport of another country? And honestly, I'm not really thinking about that at this point of time. It's just a very far away possibility, but definitely that is a possibility that requires either a lot of time or a lot of financial resources that I'm not ready to commit at this point of my life. As I said, for the next 10 years I have my Russian travel passport that I can use to go anywhere I wish. Literally there is no difference between me holding a Russian passport and planning to go somewhere, let's say 5 years ago, like before the war, and right now. I can apply for visas to any country, just like before, and that's what I will be working on in the near future. Like there is possibility for applying to visas to any single country, just like before, for Russian passport holders, but there are some minor complications, and I'm going to like do some paperwork to solve it. Soon I'm going to leave Vietnam and visit a few countries, so if you are staying in one of these countries, I'll be really glad to meet you. Either you are a foreigner living as an expat, or if you are a local person willing to show me around. The next long-term destination for me after Vietnam is going to be Georgia. Not the state in America, but the country of Georgia. I'm gonna stay there for about 1-2 months. Fortunately, there is no direct flight from Vietnam to Georgia, so I'll have an opportunity to explore 2 more countries on the way. I'm going to visit Singapore for a couple of days, and then I'm going to visit Doha, Qatar for 4 days. That will be really nice to visit a new place, film some stuff and share it with you guys. We are having a new visitor here. And the last exciting thing that I have to share with you today is a project that I'm doing together with a couple of my really talented artistic friends, Sergey from Russia and his wife Claudia from Italy. I met Sergey and Claudia in 2019 in Thailand, and that time I was having kind of difficult period of my life. I struggled thinking about what do I want to do for a living, and Sergey with his wife were such an inspiration to me. They do truly wonderful things, and we kept in touch since 2019 during the pandemic, and I was seeing what they do in northern Italy. Basically, they built an art residence, a refuge for any kind of artistic people, doesn't matter what nationality they are. They are building a unique space that I wanted to visit all the time since I met them, but unfortunately I couldn't make it to Italy, just to learn that Sergey and Claudia are soon about to organize a trip, a kind of creative artistic journey to Thailand. I don't know, should I mention that Sergey is against the war with Ukraine, and since the very first days when Russia invaded Ukraine, Sergey and Claudia were offering refuge for Ukrainian refugees who could make it to Italy. They literally invited people to stay at their stone oven house, which is a great contribution. Sergey and Claudia invited me to collaborate on their test project, a stone oven journey in Thailand. It's not like a tourist vacation, it's rather a space for meeting people, creating something together and exploring Thailand from a unique side. We are going to spend 4 weeks in different areas of Thailand, and there are 8 spots available, so anybody can join for as long as 1 week or the entire month. First week we'll have a deep dive into Bangkok. That's going to be a week full of adventure and art. For the second and the third week we are going to move away from the busy capital and closer to the seaside. It's going to be a beautiful seaside villa. Sergey has a great experience of organizing creative communal art spaces, and we are going to basically live together, cook, cook, explore the area, collaborate, create, learn from each other. All this while staying at a beautiful place right next to the sea. For the 4th week, we actually keep the adventure open. We haven't decided on what is that going to be exactly, because we don't know who is going to join us. We have a bunch of cool ideas for the 4th week, so once we know who exactly is going to join our journey, we are going to pick one that fits the group the most. Now, how much is this journey? About the same amount of money an average tourist spends in Thailand, definitely not a budget tourist like I was like 3 years ago, but this money will actually go to something useful. We don't do this solely for profit, we want to cover the expenses to organizing this journey, and whatever money is left, Stone Oven House is going to donate it to Ukraine. So if you're interested to know more about this journey, please send me an email and I'll send you the details. Meanwhile, Stone Oven House in Italy remains open, so if you want to visit Sergei and Claudia in Italian Alps, either as a tourist or as a refugee from Ukraine or from Russia, do your research. I have a link to their website in the description to this video, and I really hope that one day I'll make my own way to their amazing art residence. Well guys, thank you so much for staying with me. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do with the notification bell, that supports my channel a lot. And I guess see you next week. Спасибо and пока.